Can you understand what I said? Maybe it's too hard for someone who only graduated high school. A Harvard graduate named Alex looked down on me with such words. It had been a while since I received such a look. Never thought that at 47, I'd still face being looked down upon just because I'm a high school graduate. Are human beings still fundamentally the same? Despite being at a celebration, I felt gloomy. Too weary to retort, I almost drowned my sorrows in the wine I was holding. But then, someone who had been observing the situation turned pale and appeared. "Ah, Mr. Thompson." Alex straightened up as he noticed the person approaching, Mr. Thompson, the CEO. However, Mr. Thompson didn't even glance his way and instead offered me a profound apology. "I'm terribly sorry. He is a newcomer." This was highly disrespectful. With such an apology, I felt compelled to reassure him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "No, it's all right." Seeing him after a long time, he seemed somewhat worn out. Who is this?" Alex, still clueless about the situation, received a stern glare from Mr. Thompson. "How rude, Alex. This person is—" Faced with the truth he revealed, Alex's face turned pale. Meanwhile, I found myself reminiscing about the past upon seeing Mr. Thompson unexpectedly. Indeed, a lot had happened. With him and with her. "My name is Michael. Just an ordinary employee at a trading company. I joined this company right after graduating high school. Having been profoundly moved by the global world during an exchange program in high school, I was passionate about maintaining my French proficiency, which I had honed during my stay in France, by continuing to study on my own upon returning. The reason I was captivated by French was that it allowed me to express my genuine feelings directly. Somehow, in French, I could easily convey my emotions. Being naturally poor at communication, French might have been a good tool for me. I didn't make many close friends in middle or high school. Unable to speak my mind and seen as unsociable, I struggled to build deep friendships. Thinking it would be better to utilize my French skills in work rather than fret over friendships in college, I decided to start working immediately. After all, I didn't need friends to work. With that in mind, I sought out a company that would hire a high school graduate. And I found the ideal one. A trading company that imports raw materials and products from abroad and wholesales them to domestic companies and manufacturers. That was my current company. Given my high school education, the interviewers were somewhat skeptical. Overwhelmed by nervousness, I decided to throw caution to the wind and use French, the tool that allowed me to express my true feelings, to discuss my motivations and aspirations. Apparently, that worked in my favor. Mr. Thompson, who was present during the job interview, took a liking to me, and I was hired on the spot. After the job interview, my heart was racing, but for the first time, I felt acknowledged and resolved to work hard at this company for the long haul. However, I was yet to understand the ways of society. I was unaware of the vulnerable position a high school graduate holds. In my company, which values meritocracy, there wasn't a significant difference in salary between college and high school graduates. But it seemed there were many in the world with strong prejudices. Inside the company, a certain number of people looked down on me simply because I was a high school graduate. Why is someone who's just a high school grad our colleague? Mr. Thompson must have hired you as a joke. Huh? Listen, Michael, just don't cause any trouble. That's what someone said to my face. It seems that even as an adult, social interactions are unavoidable. I felt a sense of despair, but unlike at school, one difference was that the results of my work were appreciated, and I could feel that I was contributing to those around me. Studying is for one's own benefit, but work is different. There are clients and customers. Even with communication challenges, as long as you have a certain level of job skills, you are treated as an equal. that motivated me to devote myself to my work. My job as a procurement officer mostly involved communicating with overseas suppliers, which also helped ease my mind. Years passed as I worked tirelessly. I turned 25. Finally, younger juniors started to join, and as I began to accumulate experience as a working adult, I had a fateful encounter. It was with a woman named Emily. 2 years my senior, she was Mr. Thompson's eldest daughter and had joined a company mid-career, rotating through various departments. During her rotation, she came to my procurement department. Emily had the dignified presence of a blooming flower, and even without the title of the president's daughter, she was stunning enough to captivate and draw the attention of those around her. Yet, her personality is brisk and vibrant. She has both courage and physical strength. I was moved by the existence of such a beautiful and straightforward woman. She had apparently been working at another company for social experience until then. Her joining her father's company mid-career implied that she was being groomed for a leadership position, perhaps even as the future president, a fact that was apparent to everyone in the company without needing to be stated. She was out of my league. As different as night and day, I merely admired her from afar. However, being a young woman, she faced her fair share of resistance. I refused to be ordered around by such a young girl. So this place is just another hereditary system. So much for meritocracy. Despite her clear capabilities, the voices of dissent never ceased. This was likely also due to the fact that women's advancement in society wasn't as accepted as it is now. I hoped those voices wouldn't reach her. Yet, one day, I found her in tears in a corner of the break room. "What's wrong?" "Oh, Michael." I couldn't help but speak to her. She hurriedly wiped away her tears. The faint streaks of tears betrayed her sadness and frustration. "How embarrassing, being seen like this. Did they say something to you again?" "It's just some outdated men. You mustn't become like them, Michael." Despite her junior status, she tried to maintain her composure in front of me. Her usually bright demeanor made her seem all the more fragile, and I strained to find words of encouragement, though I wasn't used to offering them. "Emily, you're my role model. Please don't give up." "A role model? Me, being a newbie?" "Please don't call yourself newbie." I firmly rejected the self-deprecating term she likely picked up from some unkind colleagues. I wanted to convey that she didn't deserve to be so hurt. "I know you care more about this company's future than anyone, and work hard for it." "Really? I've seen you staying late to help other employees, and studying to cover areas you're not familiar with. I even know you've been thinking about future business plans for this company." "What? How did you know that?" Her surprised expression was endearing, and I couldn't help but laugh. "I saw some documents on your desk. You really should tidy up your desk, Emily." "Oh no, you saw that." She blushed unusually, speaking in a soft voice. "It's presumptuous, isn't it? Just because I'm his daughter, I shouldn't be dreaming up business plans. But it's always been my dream to expand my father's company." Perhaps she appeared endearingly youthful because she spoke of her dreams like a young girl. Before I knew it, I found myself saying, "Me too. I feel the same way. I want to make this company better and bigger, the company that hired me even though I only graduated high school. I hope you can change the company culture that doesn't properly recognize the abilities of young women just because of their gender." Her eyes widened, and then she smiled softly. "Do you think it'll change? There are many stubborn people around." "It will change. Let's change it together. You can do it." I will never forget the day we shared our dreams. Because it was the day I fell in love with Emily, and we shared our dreams. It seems Emily felt the same, and we started dating not long after. Our relationship had to be discreet since she was the president's daughter, but it gently nurtured our love. Our relationship was going well, but then a turning point came. Her younger brother, Nathan, 3 years her junior, joined the company. Of course, he was also being groomed for a leadership position, possibly even as president. Emily laughed, saying she couldn't lose to her competitive younger brother. While her smile showed familial love, Nathan seemed different. He clearly harbored a competitive spirit towards Emily, acting as if he was the rightful next president. Before we knew it, the company was divided between those who supported Emily and those who saw Nathan as the next president. While Emily was somewhat perplexed by this division, Nathan seemed to be using it to his advantage, trying to elevate himself. He formed factions, attempting to isolate Emily's supporters from her. But Emily remained unbothered, focusing on her work at her own pace. 3 years later, she said to me, "Michael, I'm thinking of introducing you to my father." Suddenly, Emily said just that. Of course, we were dating with marriage in mind, so I knew eventually we had to talk to our families. But it seemed like bad timing. "What will Nathan say if you introduce me now?" "Oh, I won't let him oppose us. This is about you and me. My father likes you, and while he may be surprised, I don't think he'll object." I was always amazed by Emily's confident demeanor. Indeed, just as she said, Mr. Thompson, although surprised, warmly accepted our relationship. Mrs. Thompson, Emily's mother, felt the same. However, Nathan was clearly against our marriage. "Are you trying to angle for the president's position?" "Absolutely not. If anyone's going to be president, it should be Emily." My response seemed to irritate him even more. Nathan, who had never even considered me a threat, started treating me like an enemy. He used his allies to harass me. But such nuisances hardly pained me, especially when compared to the profound grief that was to come. Compared to the immense pain that followed, such harassment seemed trivial. This significant ordeal occurred around the time Emily and I got engaged and began our life together. Emily passed away suddenly. The cause was acute myocardial infarction. Even though the doctors explained that it could happen to young people, I couldn't understand why it happened to her. No, I didn't want to understand. Seeing her covered with a white cloth in the hospital bed felt utterly surreal. It had to be a lie. She was so lively just yesterday. We were talking about how we couldn't wait to get married. Emily's parents, sobbing uncontrollably, clung to their unmoving daughter, collapsed on their knees. I stood there dazed, unable to accept the reality of her absence. It was Nathan, standing behind his parents with eyes red from crying, who glared at me with fury. "You lived with her, didn't you? How could this happen?" That was exactly what I wanted to know the most. Nathan grabbed my shoulders, shaking me violently, unable to provide an answer. "You bringer of misfortune. Bring my sister back. Give her back." Even though we were on opposing sides at the company, the bond between siblings was evident. Nathan's face was twisted with grief and overflowing with sadness. I must have looked just as pitiful. Until Mr. Thompson intervened to stop Nathan, I had no choice but to endure and accept the barrage of insults. Even after Emily was gone, I stayed and continued working at the company. I believed that striving to enhance the company she was so passionate about was my purpose in life moving forward. No one at the company knew about our engagement. Emily, who had suggested surprising everyone, was no longer here. The pain was excruciating, as if my heart was being torn apart. But soon, I had no time to dwell on my sorrow. I was transferred to a rural branch office that was operating at a loss. Although I held the title of branch manager, it was clearly a demotion. Years passed, and before I knew it, nearly 2 decades had flown by. After various circumstances, I was able to return to the headquarters, and today I attended the appreciation party. The headquarters seemed more vibrant than before, with many young faces among the crowd. Standing in a corner of the party venue with a glass of wine, I felt like a stain on the wall. The number of employees had significantly increased. There seemed to be more smiles and mutual appreciation for each other's work than in the past. This must be the result of the current president's efforts, a testament to the desire to improve the company. As I was lost in thought, someone approached me, saying, "Oh, I hadn't seen you before. Are you from one of the branches?" It was Alex. He was a mid-career hire, tall and charismatic, somewhat reminding me of Emily in his earlier days. Maybe that's why I let my guard down around him. Even when he asked a blunt question like, "Which university did you attend?" I answered without hesitation. "I didn't go to college. I started working here right after high school." Upon hearing this, Alex's attitude changed dramatically. "Oh, I see. I graduated from Harvard, and I've never met someone like you before. I didn't know this company hired high school graduates." I didn't quite grasp what he said at first. But when he began to laugh and suddenly started speaking in French, I was taken aback. "Do you understand what I said? Maybe it's too hard for a high school graduate." I couldn't understand why he suddenly switched to French. Looking down on me, Alex brushed back his hair and said, "I was hired for my proficiency in French. Between us, Mr. Thompson personally mentioned that we're opening a branch in Belgium soon." He was openly sharing confidential company plans, revealing he was quite indiscreet. Feeling disheartened, I aimlessly swirled my wine, wondering what to do. Emily struggled simply because she was a young woman. And here I am, still looked down upon as a high school graduate by a young newcomer, even at this age. Will societal prejudices and unfair treatment ever change? Is this just the way it is? But then, someone appeared. It was the current president of the company, Nathan. "Ah, Mr. Thompson." Unaware of everything, Alex smiled upon seeing Nathan, who had promoted him. Without even glancing at Alex, Nathan apologized to me, causing Alex's eyes to widen in shock. "I'm terribly sorry. He's a newcomer and has been quite rude." Nathan had become the new president 3 years ago. He seemed more dignified and seasoned, bearing the weight of his responsibilities. "It's all right," I reassured him, and Nathan slowly lifted his head, looking apologetic. Who is this person?" Alex, still confused about the situation, was met with a stern glare from Nathan. "Disrespectful, Alex. This is Michael, my brother-in-law." "Brother-in-law?" Alex exclaimed in surprise. Referring to me as a brother-in-law might not be entirely accurate. After all, we were only engaged and never had the chance to register our marriage. However, Nathan cleared his throat authoritatively and delivered a final blow to Alex. "Furthermore, Michael will be the head of our new Belgium branch. In other words, your boss." "What?" Alex was taken aback. Facing him, who had been subjected to unfortunate mockery, I introduced myself in French with a slightly mischievous tone. Alex's French from earlier would have been difficult for a native speaker to understand. I aimed to set a good example with my clear pronunciation. As I finished, contemplating whether Alex should attend our in-house language program, he clapped exaggeratedly. "Wow, Michael, your French is incredible. I look forward to working with you." His flattery brought a wry smile to my face. It seemed Alex was easily swayed by status and authority. Though I had my doubts about him as a subordinate, I smiled and said, likewise, out of respect for Nathan standing beside me. Afterward, Alex quickly disappeared into the crowd at the party venue, and Nathan and I found ourselves standing side by side against the wall. Looking at the employees from afar, Nathan let out a sigh. "Really, I'm truly sorry, Michael." "Don't worry about it, Mr. Thompson." "Mr. Thompson, it still feels strange." At that moment, Nathan took a sip of his wine. Following his lead, I also took a sip of mine. It was odd. Here I was, once sidelined and demoted, standing beside him. I remembered about 20 years ago, when I was sent to a regional branch. Losing Emily and being demoted, I was shocked by the reality of the branch office I was sent to. The quality of the employees was poor, and the operations that should have been functioning at headquarters were failing here. The branch was dragging down the company with its poor sales, and although I had a bad feeling, I didn't expect it to be this bad. This wasn't the vision Emily had for the company. I made up my mind. I decided to stop running away from my difficulties with communication and social interactions. I was determined to transform this place into one that wouldn't embarrass Emily if she could see it. After all, I had said to her on the day we first shared our dreams, "We can change, let's change it, you have the power to do so." Now, I used those words to motivate myself. People can change. I can change. I can do this. So, I threw myself into my work, despite being unfamiliar with it, focusing on turning around the branch as its manager. These efforts helped me cope with the loss of Emily. It took nearly a decade to turn the so-called deficit-ridden branch into a profitable one. Yet, the void left by Emily's absence remained wide open. Without forming any romantic relationships or getting married, I remained single, simply becoming an ordinary middle-aged man. One unexpected day, I received a call from an unexpected person. It was Nathan. "I have something I need to discuss with you," he said in a calm voice. Since Emily's funeral, Nathan and I hadn't really spoken properly, even within the company. Likely, it was Nathan who had orchestrated my demotion, and I assumed he still harbored hostility towards me. Yet, something about his solemn tone urged me to meet with him. At the hotel lounge where we agreed to meet, Nathan presented me with a document that felt all too familiar. "Is this something Emily created?" I asked. "So, you knew about it too. This future business plan," he confirmed. How could I forget? It was a remnant of the day Emily and I first shared our dreams. I had only glimpsed it once on her desk, but there was no mistake. Hesitantly, I picked up the document Emily had made. Facing me, Nathan seemed to muster all his courage to apologize. "Michael, I wanted to apologize to you. That's why I asked you here today. I'm truly sorry." "Nathan, to be honest, I was jealous of you. Jealous of the partner my sister had in her work." With a look of remorse unlike any I had seen before, Nathan spoke like a younger brother confessing his feelings. He mentioned how Emily had always been the capable elder sister who seemed to excel at everything. In contrast, Nathan, despite being fairly competent, felt awkward and inferior to Emily, who possessed greater abilities, and this had always been a complex for him. He believed that Emily was the rightful successor to the presidency. However, driven by a desire to outdo his sister, Nathan had formed factions and positioned himself in opposition. I honestly thought I could win because women have a weaker position in the company, but after my sister passed away, I realized I didn't want to win against her, I just wanted to be her equal. It was then that Nathan showed me tears for the first time. Even when Emily passed away, even during her funeral, he hadn't cried. Seeing him cry so openly, I understood. Nathan was incredibly awkward in expressing his feelings. Wiping away his tears, he touched the future business plan document Emily had made. I found this document a year after my sister passed away, on her computer. It was full of idealistic plans, childish thoughts packed with dreams. But Nathan smiled faintly. I hadn't envisioned any future for the company. No, any future at all. "Nathan, it's pathetic, isn't it? Even though I wanted to become the president by undermining my own sister, I had no vision for the company's future. I was utterly disgusted with myself," he said with a shrug, straightening up. Looking me straight in the eye, Nathan made a decisive statement. Michael, I was the one who orchestrated your demotion. I know, I responded. You knew, didn't you? Nathan seemed resigned to this acknowledgement. But why bring up the truth now, after all this time? When I asked, Nathan explained. Even in the branch office where I sent you as a form of harassment, you held on. I thought you might leave the company since my sister was no longer here, but you stayed and turned the branch around. Then Nathan took an unexpected step. I had no choice but to acknowledge you, someone my sister had approved of. It's taken 10 years, and it's long overdue, but I'm truly sorry. Nathan apologized deeply, profoundly. His call today was to reveal the truth about my demotion and to offer his apologies. I hadn't expected Nathan to apologize in such a manner, and I was both flustered and deeply moved. People can change. Yes, people can change after all. In fact, the emotions he initially had were simply distorted by his environment and surroundings. Just as his admiration for his sister turned into jealousy. Yet, with the right trigger, perhaps it's possible to return those feelings back to their original state. As Nathan is demonstrating now. Nathan, please don't apologize. I don't hold any resentment towards you. But still. Actually, I'm grateful. The branch I'm managing might be challenging, but it's undergoing positive changes. We have a significant project lined up for next month. I'm working with a sense of purpose now. Michael, you are something else. I picked up the future business plan that lay on the table. Then, I made a bold proposal. Nathan, what do you say we bring this future business plan to life together? What? This is Emily's, your sister's dream that she left behind. I've just realized that I want to make it happen together with you. For the first time, I saw Nathan's jaw drop in surprise. His tears, apologies, and now this astonished expression were all genuine facets of him. And then he revealed yet another new aspect of himself. Really, you are something. It was a very gentle smile. That smile, reminiscent of Emily in some way, almost brought me to tears as well. Thus, Nathan and I began working secretly on Emily's future business plan. While the plan to expand branches internationally might seem straightforward, every aspect of it reflected Emily's character, which delighted me. We created language programs that employees could easily engage with for learning, and reformed the evaluation system to improve communication within the company. Each initiative was a vision Emily would have wanted to see realized in the company. Nathan and I, over time, brought these ideas to fruition. I took charge of creating the language program and arranging instructors, while Nathan primarily handled the overhaul of the internal evaluation system. It felt as though I was working alongside Emily. Together with Nathan, her brother, we fulfilled the dreams she had chased. The gaping hole in my heart began to close, bit by bit. Emily, you must still be cheering us on. The future business plan she created is stored in my desk. The times I spend reading it over become precious moments of communication with Emily. Now, called back to the headquarters, I stood on the stage as the newly appointed head of our first overseas branch in Belgium. All 500 employees. It's remarkable to think that when I joined, the company had not even 100 employees, and now it had grown so much. Emily's father, the former president, retired a few years ago to focus on treatment due to the progression of his illness. Now, he serves as the chairman, supporting the still young current president, Nathan. Today, he watched me with a dignified gaze, leaning on his wife's shoulder. Unable to call him father-in-law anymore, I greeted him before facing all the employees. I have been appointed as the head of the Belgium branch and have joined the headquarters. My name is Michael. Speaking in front of a large crowd still made me nervous, even at this age. I'm reminded of the interview when I joined a company straight out of high school. Back then, I resorted to speaking French as an escape. But now, I no longer run away. The nearly 20 years spent in the deficit-ridden branch had honed my judgment and courage. I believe I managed to deliver a solid speech in French at my own pace. Yes, people can change. And somehow, without realizing it, I had changed too. As I stepped down from the stage, I caught the eye of the former president. His expression was more serene than before the speech, which gave me a sense of relief. Down below, Alex was giving an exceptionally loud round of applause, and I couldn't help but smile a little at his gesture. As the appreciation party came to a close, I was called aside by Nathan. We found ourselves standing shoulder to shoulder in a corner of the party venue once again. "Michael, thank you for today." "Thank you as well, Mr. Thompson. The party's over now, please, no more formalities." "All right, Nathan, thank you." Pleased with my response, Nathan smiled. Then, quite unexpectedly, he handed me a large envelope. I instinctively accepted the brown envelope from him. "What's this?" "Just take a look." Nathan, reverting to his more casual demeanor, seemed to have dropped his presidential facade. Curious, I pulled out the contents of the envelope and was surprised. Inside was an unexpectedly charming marriage certificate. Moreover, it was already filled out, with only the section for the groom's information left blank. Bride was written as Emily. I was at a loss for words. It was unmistakably Emily's handwriting. I found it in my sister's room along with the future business plan. It seems to have been an insert from a bridal magazine. She must have filled it out secretly, looking forward to marrying you. I fully unfolded the document from the envelope. Adorned with characters due to being a magazine insert, it appeared quite charming and slightly different from Emily's usual image. Thinking about how Emily, always so diligent and strong at work, must have looked while filling this out made it all the more dear to me, and incredibly poignant. My vision blurred with tears. "I didn't intend to give this to you. You have a future ahead, and you might marry someday, but considering your age, I thought you might remain single." With a hint of his old self, Nathan said he'd do it. To my surprise, the marriage certificate section for witnesses was filled out with Nathan and the former Mr. Thompson's names. Had he acknowledged me? As a brother-in-law, as a son-in-law, as Emily's husband? Thank you so much." I couldn't hold back any longer. In front of Nathan, I expressed my gratitude repeatedly as large tears continued to fall to the ground. The vast emptiness that had lingered since losing Emily. The unbearable void of the past 20 years. It was finally filled by none other than the most cherished person to me. It was Emily. Thus, the marriage certificate that could never be officially submitted, along with Emily's future business plan, was carefully stored in my desk. That desk now resides across the sea in Belgium. "Michael, I've finally secured an appointment. Off to the presentation now." "Well done, Alex. Impressive." "Yes." Our small but mighty team at the Belgian branch, not even 10 members strong, was just getting started. Alex, who once bragged about his Harvard degree and seemed unbearable, seems to have realized overseas that his educational background doesn't hold the same weight, and now he no longer flaunts his credentials, instead putting in diligent effort every day. After all, he was a talent initially selected by Nathan. If he could let go of his odd pride and prejudices, he should become an immediate asset to the team. "Michael, don't let Alex get too cocky." Other employees would caution, indicating he hadn't changed entirely. Ha understood. Our journey at the branch was just beginning. There would be many challenges ahead. But I knew one thing for certain. People can change. Growth is possible at any age if one is willing. Right, Emily? The blue sky visible from the small office window stretches all the way to the States. And perhaps it even reaches heaven. Emily might still be watching over us from there, perhaps with a hint of concern. So that when the day comes for me to join her, I won't feel ashamed. I live each day with pride, and I will continue to change and grow.